Only in the order. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any other comments from the public here today? Yes, sir.
Once again, I present myself to the board to thank you. Jesse Garner, I lead a Firewise neighborhood of 245 homes, Montgomery Estates, Coal Creek Trail area. We've grown one new start in the last 3 years. It's a fairly stable neighborhood. We all work together. We have 99% now defensively spaced. I'm working on those last 3 people. I'm here because the National Fire Protection Association begins an event on Sunday called Fire Prevention Week, and they do so with a theme. It's this year, Pay Attention to Fire Prevention, and the subtitle is Safety in the Kitchen. I think that's exactly how we say it. It's provided more carefully. The event date is actually the 9th of October, and it's the middle day of 3 days of burning in Chicago in 1870 something like that. That began what we now know as the National Fire Protection Association. That spun off a neighborhood active bunch called Firewise, and we're growing in the South Shore, North Shore, West Shore, East Shore, Carson City, all over Northern Nevada. People are saving money on their home insurance if you're Firewise, if your neighborhood is Firewise and you have your defensive space. I tell my neighbors, it's not just Firewise, not just wildfire that's going to burn you out. We also have the sort of earthquake, other natural disasters. The sheriff could, for some reason, just declare that we all need to leave it. You remember what that was like in Caldor? So be prepared ahead of time and predict when you have to leave. Get the go bag ready to go, take care of the pets, have a load time for the car, and that'll let you tank get below half. Thank you again. You have 3 plots that I look at, your properties that I look over. The water tower at the top of Coal Creek, a small grassy area that's enclosed with fence on Coal Creek, and Coal Creek trails for them. Thank you. And then the filtration building down at Pioneer.
So we're not one of the 3 that you're having trouble with, right?
Well, the other public partners, the Forest Service, Conservancy, and the county are not as responsive. Let me put it that way. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else? Not seeing anybody? Let's move to item 3. Any corrections to the agenda or concerns?
Yes, we have a request to add item 7D, Indian Creek Reservoir Emergency Repairs. This item was brought to the district's attention after the agenda had posted and cannot wait another 2 weeks to be addressed. Adding this item requires a 4/5 vote of the board to be added to the agenda today and can be approved under changes to the agenda, so it will be added then as 7D. So we will probably take that one separate. We have another request to move an item off of consent calendar, but we'll address that under 5A, and that's to bring item 4C, Blacklight Water Line Project, pulled from the consent calendar and onto action for discussion. So that is item 4C will be pulled, and it will be addressed on the agenda under 5A. Consent items brought forward. But first thing we want to do is, if the board is so inclined, is to add 7D to the agenda by 4C. And that will be separate from consent calendar.
Just wanted to know, I also wanted to pull 4D.
4D?
4D. Discuss that in the file also.
I'll move to add item 7D to the agenda.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Okay, and that motion passes unanimous. And then the next item would be to approve the consent calendar with changes as presented, meaning items 4B and 4C will be pulled and added to the end of the, action calendar.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Any discussion? Okay. Very good.
Okay, and that passes unanimously.
Okay, let's go to, 5A, which is, the poll 4B regarding fleet truck purchases. Put part of it here or something?
No. I put this in here kind of as a bulk placeholder. It's gotten very difficult for us to get fleet vehicles, over the last few years. And it's been very difficult to get vehicles for our fleet for the last few years. And when they do become available, they go very fast. And by the time I try to get the specs all together, get it in, and get a quote for them, and then take it to the board and everything, a lot of times I lose out on them. There's several vehicles on here. Not all of them are going to be replaced. They're all in the budget to be replaced, but the way the prices have gone up and the cost of everything, it's going to be impossible to replace everything I need. So I'm just going to be replacing the ones that need to be replaced the most. Most of these will probably eventually be repurposed into other pieces of equipment in other departments.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. Looking at this, I think fundamentally that, the reason I requested this poll is I actually have empathized with your position in terms of, challenges with getting equipment, timelines, and need to move fast to obtain it. The reason I asked for this poll was, for a little while now, we've been talking about a fleet evaluation and plan in terms of when and how things are going to be moving out. Also, the opportunity of looking at, what existing trucks are needed in terms of can some existing trucks now be serviced with, a lesser vehicle and how that might play out. Kind of aligning with that, I would say there's also just, there are the limitations I think we all kind of agree to in terms of what electrification can offer a district, in particular with our needs now. Some of these trucks, I think there would be the possibility for looking to go EV, a different type of vehicle or hybrid as we look to do with engineering recently. And so what I'd like to see before we kind of give a blanket approval for vehicles into the future is see that plan in terms of how things are going to be moving out, which vehicles can be converted conceivably to something else, and have a more holistic understanding of that cost.
Yes, I understand that. All of these vehicles that I have on this right here are all pretty much construction vehicles, and there's not even a supply as of today that has a construction vehicle that's an EV. Right.
No, what I'm saying is a couple of the vehicles look to maintenance elements that are driving around town. Does that open an opportunity for a hybrid or the EV option? But I think beyond that, the challenge is we're looking to invest $500,000 approximately into new vehicles with a plan that was stated to be advancing towards kind of understanding how that money will be spent and where we go with these opportunities, and that's never been provided. And so, and I don't hope anybody, we're all very busy, this is a set element, so I want to make sure it's clear I'm not holding anybody responsible to that. There's a lot of fish to fry, right? So it's not a critique, but more utilizing this agenda item as the opportunity to have some investigation of that and clarity on that before we move forward with these items.
Yeah,
would be my goal.
I can understand what you're saying. It's just hard to do any planning when there's no product to plan with. There hasn't even, I follow this very closely. There's not even any talk of really any 3/4 ton, 1 ton trucks. They're still trying to get the 1/2 tons off the road.
they don't really make a truck, they make a car with a bed, it's a Florida. We have really no use for it. So the reason why the plan really hasn't come about is because it's hard to plan when we don't know when anything's gonna be available.
No,
And,
exactly.
and I've been downsizing the fleet for years, like with engineering and, the smaller trucks. We will probably see the smaller vehicles, like the two hybrids that I just, placed an order for engineering and one for, IT, being phased in as we go, as they become available. So another issue is with the trucks, the smaller trucks are generally two-wheel drive. Again, we need four-wheel drives, for quite a bit of the year up here. So.
Right, I guess what I'm saying is not in terms of, forecasting some technological advancement, that to your point, you're correct. We don't know. It's more, it's just very broad example. We have 10 trucks. We reevaluate how those are being used. 2 of those trucks could actually be sedans based on the need.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as you referenced, kind of the repurposing of these trucks, we have an entire fleet, but the connective tissue to this particular purchase meet kind of our long-term objectives, potential state mandates that might come our way. None of that's really accounted for. And so, in my position, kind of to make this decision, like I said, this has been a kind of point of conversation for multiple years now, and so we haven't seen any advancement of it. And so I want to use this as the mechanism to see that advancement. And again, it's not a forecasting of technology in the future. It can just be as simple as none of these trucks can be, anytime foreseeable future be EVs. Potentially, these two can be converted. We're going to move these ones here, and so on and so forth. And then I would say, kind of coupled with that, as the EV transition, even with just what we recently purchased with the engineering department, to look to really see if we can take any opportunity with grants to start to update our infrastructure now. And so I'd like to see all that advance in kind of a very holistic, thoughtful manner. And I want to use this as the vehicle to have that conversation.
Yes, I understand that. I've been very involved with the looking for grants and so forth. I've been working with the city in a partnership. We try to find grants for our application. We've applied for grants. We usually get turned down because most of the grants right now are down in the valleys. And most of them are the transportation or food delivery, product delivery realm. But not really. The construction end of everything right now is just kind of in a gray area. I don't see any movement in it.
No,
and I haven't for years.
In terms of grants, I was more referring to the installation of the infrastructure per se. So connecting the electricity system upgrades that might be needed with that. The actual install of the utility to the electric charging infrastructure. Yes. And so, that would be a benefit obviously to the engineering department and their vehicles, but depending on where it's located, it could be utilized by staff, it could be utilized by guests, it could be utilized by the public as they come to a meeting, pay bills and so forth. And so, because I'm
more talking about the infrastructure.
Right, look for money now, because I've seen opportunities for that infrastructure element, because I agree with you in terms of the truck advancement.
That opens up another can of worms per se, because like for most of our vehicles, for the offices up here, they all have dedicated spots. Down below, there is no real dedicated parking areas for the trucks you see out on the road, the parking today, our service trucks and whatnot. We need a big parking lot. The city, talking with the city, if we can work together and find an area where we can park everything, the charges, the centralized area. But it's all in the making right now.
Right, and I guess what I would say, again, kind of just reiterating that, generally speaking, and for all different avenues, we want to see the concrete plan, cohesion between the various different elements that need to be considered. It doesn't have to be wildly in depth where we're getting stuck in souls and any of that. I think it can be very really can be kind of the theme of the report, but we need to have understanding of how these things operate. I mean, in military history, right, and I think every general that ever lived will tell you, the understanding of your equipment and how it's being moved, and all those various things are going to be, the difference between success and failure. So it's a high priority. I would say it's the exact same high priority for us as well. And so in the absence of seeing how all these things going forward, as purchase orders, whether it be this one or others, it's hard to see the cohesion of how all those things come together.
Are you looking for like a fleet master plan or a fleet electrification conversion plan, or what do you look for?
Really what I want to know is, I think we just deal with the reality as we know them now, because I think forecasting and technological advancements is a wasted exercise at this point. So really it's, an evaluation of the fleet as it exists, the opportunities for, various different vehicles to conceivably be downsized to an electric option. And then I would say, in terms of the other vehicles, in which that isn't an option, looking to kind of ensure that the biggest, expensive, most heavy vehicles, which we're already doing, are going to last as long as possible. And then as new vehicles are purchased, where are these existing vehicles going, right? So that way we can see the flow of it around. So electrification is a component of it, but really with the absolute understanding of kind of the reality that exists with that as an opportunity.
How about a suggestion? I don't know if this will go on consent in the future, but we're going to basically, if we pass this and we pre-authorize purchases 6 vehicles, so it's going to go over budget. No. If we get a report, as it's done, just one page, something that basically describes the vehicle, options considered, and electrification should be probably a separate heading. Is that possible even for a 2-ton boom truck? And say if it is or not. If it is possible, it'll be considered. Did we dismiss it? Did we choose it? Just something to, and then the cost versus what was budgeted. So maybe just a kind of a 1-page report summarizing what you did and how it came about. A little bit of analysis and kind of what Nick's looking for there is, sounds like is, for each truck, before you buy it, or maybe concurrently when you buy it, did we really need a one-time utility box truck? Could have been a 3/4 ton. So alternatives considered,
I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
They don't need, many years ago, before most of you guys were here, we used to have 3/4 ton trucks that just moved around empty paint cans. And since I've been in the position I'm in now, I've been downsizing what I can to a smaller truck, I'll keep on going as they become available, and we will be replacing them as they go. But, until, just many things all catch up with the staff and one page, there is some papers and a report on each one of these purchases.
And I think we could do, because I'm hearing 2 different things. One is to, have some sort of fleet plan that is an inventory of the fleet and potential alternatives to replace them. And then, as the agenda items move forward, some explanation of that work, basically. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
That works.
I think the only thing I'd add is, the infrastructure element, because there is opportunity now, and it's one of those things, I don't know how long, how long that window is going to be open. So if there is the opportunity, and it exists now, we could look at to put that in there. But yeah, other than that, I think that's outlined. So yeah, exactly. Okay.
Very good.
One other element that I wanted to add, because we're working in parallel, is we're looking on an RFP for facilities master plan for lower shops and fountain shops. And what the fleet needs are in the future, which is electrification, will be a major component of that. And so we'll be issuing that RFP in the next couple of weeks. We'll be back in front of the board in January, requesting approval of consultants to help guide us through that process. And we'll be looking at everything. Are we replacing a welder with a CNC machine or a 3D printer? Are we electrifying every vehicle? Are we electrifying 50% of the vehicles for the next 20 years? So we'll be that electrification and what is the vehicle of the future is an element of that. I think it will be parallel or separate from the fleet plan, but it really considers what those fleet needs will be and what that equipment will look like in going forward. So I just wanted to note that we are, that is coming in terms of looking at the infrastructure. Do we need to have chargers at remote pump stations because the guys are going to run out of juice in the middle of the day, or they're going to be out there in the middle of a storm and need to recharge. So we'll start thinking about that. It's primarily focused on our facilities needs here at the plant and fountain shops, but we'll look at that as well in terms of what our infrastructure will be to support that future purchase. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just a quick question. So you're asking for $430,000, and it says that we have budgeted $390,000. Is there a $40,000 amount difference? Is there
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
if I bought everything.
okay?
I'm not.
Yeah, the goal is to purchase how many of vehicle we can get with the budgeted dollars.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if we were approving the 430 or the 390.
Very good.
And discussion?
390. Okay. So he's asking for 430.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to approve item 4B.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
And just, I mean, I don't know, maybe if, as we start moving forward, we can maybe bring this to subcommittee, you know, I don't know, officer, maybe it's our storage committee, I'm not sure, somewhere around there. And we, are getting it there.
Yeah, I think that works, because that way we don't have to convert, everyone's discussion.
Perfect. Yeah, let's sit down and talk to you all about it. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to item 4C, select board borderline fund.
Good afternoon, Trevor Phillips, senior engineer. To request authorization for the general manager to approve notice completion with the Colorado County Clerk for the Ball Park Waterline project. We pulled this item to update the date to reflect that they are not yet substantially complete. Contractor has not demobilized and finished completed paving. I submitted this proactively, and we're not where we expected to be with the project. So we expect the project to be completed within the next 2 weeks. So we're requesting the board approval upon completion of the remaining work to authorize the general manager to execute the notice of completion and remain silent on the date in the board action item.
Was that reading good enough for the motion, or?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'll move Trevor's request.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
So let me just ask a question, impacted this project, but, so paving's gonna be done within the next 2 weeks, and hopefully close down.
Within the next, paving will be completed by next week, and then we expect to have final service transfers in unpaved areas following that.
I guess, I don't know if we have to run the items, but, the paving's gonna have a pretty significant interface with a lot of private property. I wanna make sure that there weren't any significant elements sticking out, whether it's issues with private property owners or other things that would maybe not allow it to be authorized as substantially complete. So just maybe, just make sure we come back to the board if there's any sizable issues.
Yes.
And just adding that, you know, in terms of a decision point for the general manager when taking this action.
The notice of completion and make notice of substantial completion will go to the contract with a list of known items, and that won't even necessarily be the final punch list. Oftentimes that final punch list will have something significant like a driveway and requires restoration. We have walked the project with Aurora County to establish limits of paving within the right of way, and we've passed all of our mainline testing and inspection. So that's really good that we don't have thousands of feet of mainline that's leaking or has bacteria issues.
Great job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Shall we vote? Thank you. item 5, let's move on to item 6. Board Government Finance Officer Certificate. Just want to see this word. Should I just read it?
Reagan is true.
Reagan is true.
Yeah, I'm not here.
Reagan is true.
Not allowed to stay to see who's here.
Come on up.
Here they are.
Here we are.
I'm just gonna take a picture, I'm gonna read this, so everybody knows what it is. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to South Dakota PD for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. The report has been built by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivated potential users and user groups to read the report. Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. So congratulations. Very good.
Hard work, diligence, and good teamwork.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. Pretty big honor, what do you know? Okay, let's move on to item 7A, the Recycled Water Strategic Plan. Stephen Caswell.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to ask the board to approve the proposal from Pro Engineers for engineering services for the Recycled Water Strategic Plan Phase 2, and then authorize the general manager to execute that task order with them as well. So in October 2021, we started Phase 1. We are just wrapping that up as we speak. I returned comments earlier this week to them on the final TM on that. It basically summarized everything that I presented to the board back in May as far as the options. And then once we went through the public hearing and got the public comments, and so we've been working on kind of tracking down those issues that came up during public comment and the board presentation, and figuring out how we're moving forward on the next phase. So, as you may recall, we started off with around 20 alternatives. We have narrowed that down to 6 that are moving into this phase 2. They are going to have a detailed alternative evaluation for each option, and we will end up with a very thorough and developed roadmap for what our options are for recycled water should anything really change in the future, or we'd be able to know where we need to go depending on what happens, both in a regulatory sense, a legal sense, or all sorts of different options really. So the schedule for the project is basically that we would finish up the alternative evaluation by May of 2024, and then the final strategic plan would be finalized around this time next year, September 2024. And then we will continue with our public outreach process. We'll have another public meeting once we have the alternative evaluation, so we can go into depth on those 6 alternatives. And there's also, in addition to the alternatives, there's sort of 5 enhancements, I think that we're calling them, that could apply to several of the alternatives. And so they're not standalone alternatives themselves, but we will be evaluating those in depth as well, so that we can understand any potential implications. And yes, change include wetlands. So, and include additional energy recovery. I think that was something that I expressed interest in as well. Let's see. With that, are there any questions?
I'm just curious, can you kind of summarize how you landed on the 6 alternatives?
Yeah, so that is actually, basically we went through sort of the screening process. We had several different categories. We looked at regulatory, we looked at technical, we looked at public perception, There's 6 of them, and I only remember 3 right now, but,
What three can you remember? I'm curious, because like, I'm looking at like 2 of them really that I think are really.
oh, which
viable.
alternatives can I remember? Oh,
Or which are the ones that you think, I guess as I look at this breadth of alternatives, it seems to me like only 2 of them are really the ones that we should be focusing on. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I know we started off, 21 or something like that, and now we're down to 6. But I'm just wondering if we can still like pitch it down even more.
So really, what we want to make sure we understand are, they're all kind of various things. So we've got obviously continuing what we're doing on our existing system. We have looking at are there expanded recycled water uses with our existing system. Like, you know, could we have master plans for additional alfalfa fields, and are there other uses in Alpine County, are there other ranchers that could take the water? So that's another one. Then we're looking across the state line as well. Could we extend that into Nevada? We're looking at combining our effluent with DCLTSA and then going over Kingsbury and looking at the uses more in the Carson Valley and not necessarily right at the state line. We are looking at discharge into the West Fork of the Carson River, and that's really, it's the only surface water discharge we could potentially do, and so that one is probably less likely. Not going to lie to you on that one, but there has been enough interest in it that we want to make sure that we gave it thorough evaluation before we move forward on other plans. And what am I forgetting? That was 5 of them.
So in terms of the
the tertiary use in Alpine County or in Nevada as well. So it would be upgrading the treatment processes to, and right now we're advanced secondary, so we have to go to tertiary treatment, which allows additional uses for the recycled water. It's just that really what we're finding in Alpine County, there's not a lot of those uses available, but it does open the doors for some other things that we could have additional end uses for our recycled water.
This is the other thing, that I'd suggest in the scope, like, see that says, there's a bullet item, selection of the preferred strategy will be based on established evaluation criteria developed in collaboration with the district team. It seems like, you know, as part of that process, it would be nice to have the preferred strategy plus the 2 runners up, so you kind of have it narrowed down to 3, because I would imagine that next thing that we'll do after this is go to CEQA and NEPA, and it'd be nice to have a short list of alternatives rather than doing NEPA on all 6.
Yeah, I think if we were to implement any of the alternatives, we would definitely streamline that process a lot more and not take all 6 of them through the NEPA process.
So in this report, can they narrow the 6 to 3 and then go from 3 to 1?
Yeah, we will be getting an overall prioritization of the 6 of what's, you know, the feasibility basically, and we will have that, and we will also have the triggers that will point us in a different direction should something change in the future. To me, the big thing that's out there is, will our ranchers renew the contracts in 2028? And if we lose any of those ranchers, then what do we do at that point? And so we'll have a strategy in place so that we know how we can accommodate that.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions?
I guess for me, I'm just struggling with the scope, like the breadth of the alternatives. It seems to me like getting discharged into a fresh water seems like it's kind of a non-starter for me, but I guess for me, I'm just trying to find a way to kind of pinch this number just a little bit more. And I'm not sure if there's an opportunity to do that at this point, but I just would hate for us to waste a bunch of time for an alternative that we know off the, at the start, this is not going to, this is a non-starter.
Well, I guess I would counter with the fact that if we do lose some of our ranchers and we don't have any additional users for that, the West Fork of the Carson will actually start to look pretty good to us as an alternative or for a seasonal discharge potential. And yeah, it's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's a lot of would be a lot of work, but I think it becomes definitely more in play in that scenario, and we want to make sure that that we have evaluated it thoroughly and know exactly what we need to do should that situation arise.
Good response, but I think you feel like we're
Very far out there. I'm not going to disagree with you, honestly, I lay out there, but I think you're right. I think that is one of the scenarios that is less likely to happen in the future, but I think it is something that we need to look at this point.
Yeah, and just a lot of change, putting out there for this, especially, again, I think we really started out with 21 or so alternatives. Like, a lot of those in my mind were non-starters. Went through the process, and I guess I would pay for it and spend some additional funding on something that's really, like, where it's not really happening. Considering all the other alternatives that definitely happen.
Bring will rise to the top.
Certainly will. Another 100,000, whatever it is.
All right, do we have any other discussion?
It's just, I'm glad we're incorporating in the, recovery options for energy going down. And nothing else.
And
So, I'm asking the board to, one, approve the proposal from Crowell Engineers in the amount of $425,367 for engineering services for the Recycled Water Strategic Plan Phase 2, and two, authorize the general manager to execute task order number 31 of the master services agreement with Crowell Engineers.
You're very welcome. Sorry.
I'll second. Any other discussion?
Motion passes.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, let's go to item 7B, water meter installation projects. Trevor.
Good afternoon, Fred Coolidge again. Here to discuss restoration of water main for Cornish and Sturgeon water meter installation project. So I think most of you are familiar with the installed water meter. We're going down on customers' existing service valve. This would be like a flat rate customer, no existing meter. Our water service lines are around 48 inches deep, about 4 feet deep. And we have a hole just a little bit larger than this podium, install water meter kits on the existing line, reconnect everything. In a lot of locations, particularly in the county, our service valves are sort of double valves, so you'll have a single service coming off of the main to the corner of two properties. And so frequently in that area, the property pin is located. Sometimes we find those property pins within the actual meter box, so with dead center between the meter, the two existing valves. That would be like a perfect valve installation, perfectly on the corner. That's absolutely worst for getting around the property pin. When these property pins are disturbed, they can only be reset by a licensed land surveyor. That requires recordation with other counties surveyor. And so throughout the course of the meter projects, which is about the 10,000 installations, we have about 158 of these property pins that we know we've disturbed. These are considered assets of our customers. It's part of the property. If they need it, they're going to have to put it back, or they complain to Ryan, and usually it's something they need yesterday. Because I told Ryan I was going to move into this. And, because usually it's something they need yesterday. They're in dispute with their neighbor over where the fence is, or who's snow where, or who's parking where, or maybe they're pulling a remodel permit and you need to show where their property corners are. So we fully recognize these are important. And as best we could, we've recorded where we found them. Sometimes it wasn't in the first scoop, it might have been in the second scoop down to the recover. But if we find them, we record it, we recognize that that's something we need to return for our customers. Over the years, we have called out a number of local surveyors as they have capacity, because there's been like a boundary dispute where someone's pulling a permit, needs that property pin restored, so we'll take care of those customers on a case-by-case reactionary basis. This is recognizing the majority of the water meters are installed. We only have a little bit over 100 remaining, and so we want to get caught up, remove this kind of customer issue off the books. And we're looking, we issued so change in terms of how we're addressing it. we issued an RFP for surveying services a couple of years ago. Loomis and Associates was one of the consultants that responded to that. They showed a lot of strength within the Tahoe Basin. They have a couple gentlemen on staff, licensed surveyors, that are very familiar with the Tahoe Basin. We did a pilot project with them last year, just to take a handful, a half dozen property pins, see how long it took them to do it, figure out the best approach for addressing this next batch of 160 property pins. We found it was highly variable. We did, all the pins were right on Skyline Drive, just so we could be in one area to see how efficient we could get. This number works out to be about 2,200 or 2,300 per pin, plus recording fees, it's close to 2,500. They were actually down around 1,600. We think we're going to see an even larger efficiency to scale by doing all of them together. So I don't think we're going to hit this $360,000 number that we're asking for, but it could be that much. We see in the cost estimate breakdown, they have a field crew out for 4 hours. They have another like 2 to 4 hours of office work associated with each of these. The other element, because of its association with the public works job, we're looking at prevailing wages for all these folks as they're out in the field. So that also increases your cost over what a private individual would see. When I've surveyed our property privately, and it was a lot less expensive than what we're seeing here. So I recognize that the dollar amount appears high, but we're looking at prevailing wage rates. We're looking at potentially getting efficiency of scale, and then also just getting to take care of this all at once rather than as a customer calls, we issue a PO, we process that, and bring it back. So I think we're going to see a lot of staff time savings as well, rather than eating this one at a time, just getting them out and getting them done. So welcome any questions or any other requests for clarification.
Question for them.
I guess, is this not budgeted? I didn't see.
We have a meters cleanup budgeted. This is part of that. So like those 120 meters that are coming out of that, the elements in it, it's actually called meters cleanup in the budget.
I'm saying, I'm happy to see that we're employing a local firm for this. Their rate schedule is very favorable compared to, a lot of the hot-tail consultant fees that we're getting. So I'm happy we're using the most on this. They're really good fun. Good choice.
I'm glad you feel that way, because I was kind of sticker shocked when I heard it was $2,500. I just had no idea about what to do with survey.
Yeah.
Is it a nut-to type arrangement?
In other words, this is on a material basis, so they're not guaranteed the full amount, they'll still out hourly as needed. And we also included the kind of recording fees, so I'm not having to write a check for every one of these, so they'll process that payment as well.
Doing a really exercise, not golf. Just figuring out what the meeting costs. Big meeting.
One of these meetings?
Yeah. Like the 15,000 to 20,000 an hour, Sometimes they go on for several months. So yeah, meetings, and you get so much value out of it.
We're going to we'll have mentioned separate camouflage next time too.
Yeah. No, good job. What should I just do?
I would like to request that we approve the proposed scope of work from Loomis and Associates for professional surveying services to replace property corners disturbed by water meter projects, and 2, authorize the general manager to execute task order number 18 in an amount not to exceed $359,380.
I'll second.
Moving and second. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
And the motion passes unanimously.
All right, let's go to item 7C, Chris Kelly.
Good afternoon. The item before you today is requesting waiving formal bidding procedures because of a compatibility metric with our existing equipment. So we're asking for $189,084.84 to replace essentially the core of the district's computing infrastructure. So it's going to be the shared storage and the compute and the networking behind making everything work. So GIS, file storage, email, everything. What we've done in the past, this will be actually the second purchase that we approach this way, is we take the existing in-production storage box and move that down to our off-site data center. And then the new one will be put into production and start replicating data automatically down to the offsite storage. So we repurpose the older currently in production storage as our backup and recovery, part of our backup and recovery model. With that, any questions?
Board members, any questions? Very good. Chris, what would you like us to do?
Two parts. Part one, the waive formal bidding procedures as allowed for in the district's purchasing policy when an item is economically preferable to match or be compatible with other equipment presently on hand, and the purchase is made from the supplier who supplied such equipment. And two, authorize the purchase of the new Nimble SAN and compatible server and switching infrastructure from Cadence team in the total amount, including tax, of $189,084.84.
Second. Any other discussion? Okay.
Yeah, now motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 7D, the item added, which is the Inland Creek Reservoir Emergency Repairs item.
We're seeking approval of a resolution authorizing the general manager to exceed his spending authority in order to contract for urgently needed repairs to the Indian Creek Reservoir. I'm sure you've all heard about the hydraulic oil leak out in the reservoir. Paint Constructors is still out there doing some cleanup, and we've tested the water, and there is still some oil residue in there, but the level is coming way down. But the most important thing we need to address is repair of the valve itself, the water release valve. And we want to get moving on that sooner than later because we want that done before winter time. And we have a dive team coming in next week to take a look at it, to determine, first of all, what repairs are needed, and then to do the repairs. And so we just really want to get a start on this before the next board meeting when we might get a proposal from them. And it's possible the repairs will come underneath my spending limit, but it is possible they'll be above. And so we just want to have the authority in place to take care of it.
Any questions for me?
I'm just curious, that spill itself, like what happened there? It seems like it's not really clear in terms of some of the press releases and stuff.
Sure. Well, what happened was, our crews were up there on the 27th, I believe. Yeah, on September 27th. And as part of the annual inspection of the dam, they were testing the valve itself, and they noted that it appeared there was some irregularities in it. And so they went out the next day and added the hydraulic fluid to it, thinking that it was low. And after they added it, subsequently, they noticed it rising to the surface of the water. And so there's a leak somewhere, either in the line or where it's connected to the valve itself. And so that was the cause.
This is the only valve that lets water out of the reservoir before it overflows.
No, it's not. And Trevor can probably answer. Yeah.
It's one of approximately 4 valves on the line out, but what's critical about this is it's currently stuck in a closed position. So last year during the March storms, we had to open it to lower the level in the Creek Reservoir. If that occurred right now, AD Reservoir would cascade into Hudson Place Reservoir where our effluent is currently stored, which would then be the capacity in that. So we're pretty concerned about at least, even if we're not going to be operational, at least getting it open before winter. That's the criticality of it.
So many points.
Yeah.
Will you read the language of?
Sure. Press board action to approve resolution 3257-23, a resolution of the board of directors of the South Scotland Public Utility District authorizing the general manager to exceed his spending authority in order to contract for urgently needed repairs to the Indian Creek Reservoir.
Make a motion. Moved in second. Any other discussion? Okay.
That motion passes unanimously.
Very good. All right, let's go to item 8, standing and ad hoc committees and liaison reports.
After a month off, I guess I had some more exciting news for you, but, Nothing really from, nothing really from.
Yep, no, okay.
No, nothing.
I have nothing under this item either. Let's go to board member reports. Any?
Kind of same response as last time.
Yeah.
One thing, I just thought of this during the discussion. Several meetings ago, we had an item on the agenda, and a lot of discussion about an office trailer out back that we want to replace, but we kind of sent staff back to the drawing board. Is that going to come back to the board, or where are we on it?
Not the trailer itself. We're actually looking at doing some upgrades to a building and on property that we own out in Myers, as a temporary solution. Because the building is fine. It's on the same property, where we have another building that we lease to the search and rescue, for the county. And, it can probably house 5-6 people. And so I think it'll work fine on a temporary basis, until we decide what kind of expansion, if any, we want to do to this building.
Right, so we're good for now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have anything else other than I will be absent for the board meeting of the 19th. Okay, the following that. I will be here for the overall water agency meeting on the 11th. So just that board meeting on this. Anything else on that? We'll go to item 10. Staff and adjournment report. Shelley, website.
Good afternoon, board members. So what normally we come to you once we've put out an RFP, we've gotten the bids, and we come to you for approval for the top bid. However, this pertains to the website, which is how the public interacts with us, and you talk to the public, so I wanted to let you know of where we're at with this process. So we're looking at putting out an RFP to update our website. Our website was originally launched in 2018. And since then, there's been a lot of new California regulations regarding transparency, accessibility, custom programming. We've got some internal process changes as well as technological advances that really necessitate an upgrade. The goal of this project isn't actually to make it look prettier for the end user, it's to make it function better on the back end of things. We also think that we're looking for a bit more of an off-the-shelf solution. We're not the only water sewer district in California. Our website doesn't need to be the fanciest thing. It needs to be very functional and for folks to find where the answers to their questions. So we're looking forward to this RFP because we anticipate that by doing these upgrades, we'll ensure we're in compliance with current and future regulations, as well as streamlining the use of how we post, who posts, and how we manage things on the website on the back end. So the plan is to get this RFP out in the next week, have it due early November, come back to you for approval of an RFP for the most responsible bidder, and then work on this from December through May, and hopefully have our new website launch in the spring. Any questions or comments?
I just would, not forget about the public that's going to be viewing this, not to be overly critical of the website. It's the utility district website, but I think in terms of just the visualization of it, and then also how you can access specific information in terms of, there's just things pointing in my mind, hydrants, those types of things, the different plans we're working on, rebate options, all that kind of good stuff, where it's a better interface for the user as well. I think that would probably likely happen with the upgrade. And I also think the idea of just seeing some of it someone else did and taking that is a great idea as well. But just to kind of be mindful of that, because I think the user experience needs some improvement as well.
Agreed. Something that has happened over the years is that things get added and added and added to the website, and things are important, but then it gets more complicated for how we find it, and I couldn't agree more with you, Nick. So, that will definitely be a part of it. It's not really the reason why we're doing this, it's the back end, but we will absolutely get a product. I would hope that we get a product that is easier for the user, especially in this day and age. I mean, when I go to find any information from a government agency or really any organization, I go to their website first. We want it to be really streamlined for our users. We have a whole subcommittee that is working on this, to think about how different departments work, how we each talk to, what customers are saying, and of course, customer service is a really critical piece. They're the one talking to most people all day long.
You know, local bodies, I give TFDA like that. I think their website and interface and how you're able to interact with it, they've done a great job in comparison to other kind of regional regulatory bodies. I think, you know, that's something to look at as well.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities out there that exist now that didn't the last time we did our revamp, I guess. Because if you go to a lot of agency websites now, especially like ones that we use a lot, like when we're doing our compensation studies and things, you can go to their websites and you can see how a lot of them have become very standardized and they're all using the exact same format. And I'm assuming that's because, for one example, CSDA, they have a preferred affiliate called Streamline that does websites, and they're probably doing a lot of these websites and they're doing the same. I think that benefits the customers. I think our customers to go to more full and agency websites. If they are, they know what they're looking at and they know what they're looking for.
Yeah, industry standards really updating websites every 5 years. The last time we did it was 2018. It was a huge revamp then because before that, it was internally made with a blue bubble background, and it just, technology changes so quickly. So I'm really excited for this process, for both staff time and how we use things, and for our customers to more easily access and have their questions answered.
So you'll be coming back to us with the RFP?
Yeah.
I guess my.
But once we have proposals, we'll come back.
I'm hoping we're maybe looking at like local opportunities, website developers, something.
We'll post it for everyone. We'll see what we get. On an unrelated note, just a reminder that after the board meeting, I'm going to corral you guys to do some board photos. You look great.
In terms of, kind of, that was just raised, that Shane brought up, when we're doing these kind of evaluations of the proposals, what's the metric for local economic realities in terms of using, local firms? Is there any kind of weighted average that benefits those people?
No, I don't believe we've done that in the past where we've, given a higher point system to somebody local that I'm aware of. Have you guys ever done that in engineering?
No, we haven't. Generally, it's familiarity with like the Tahoe Basin would be as close as you get. We have, I think, previously had some local preference for purchasing on smaller contracts.
But that's the extent of our local preference. There's a lot of concern over local preference, particularly when you go to these larger grant-funded projects that might be federally funded. So we want to encourage open competition across state lines and out of a given area. But that's usually it's just in our purchasing policy. I think on smaller contracts, it's a little bit easier to purchase from local vendors. I haven't seen some places will offer like a 10% bid credit if the person's local or something like that, but we haven't implemented something like that.
With these commercial off-the-shelf solutions like we're looking for on the website, it's mainly for this future support of the website too, right? If we stick with one local web designer, they may go out of business and then our website's no longer supported. So we want to get into a software and support contract with a reputable business that's larger, not just supporting one site.
Yeah, I guess my comment was, probably, you know, to your point, I agree, was less specific to this particular example and more just an overall kind of comment and use thought. I just, anything we can do this, you know, I think today's kind of earlier statement about limits, that we can support, you know, local businesses, obviously that kind of reverberates through our local economy and our community. You know, all manner of things to think about, so I won't take any more time, but I'd love to see if there's opportunity to advance.
And along those lines, we do, like in engineering, I think about that, like I mentioned, we have about 100 remaining meters. Rather than roll these into one of these big $4 million, $5 million contracts, we're planning to bid out that 100 meter project as just like a smaller purchasing bid. And so that's easier because they're not as concerned about large bonding capacity. It's more bite-sized for like the local contractors. So we're more likely to see a local contractor buy on something like that, like a smaller scale project.
And I guess just, sorry to add one more thing to that point, because in that vein, like, you know, people that operate locally versus Carson Valley, Sacramento Valley, there's an inherent additional cost for being here. Just purely from a regulatory sense, in terms of your entitlements, all these various different things that go into it. So there's just a higher cost to operate in Tahoe than it would be in anywhere else they own. And so that does, I would say, put, you know, local firms in some ways at a disadvantage in times. And so any way that can be balanced or considered would be something to support of.
Some thought. I agree. I like to support, you know, local taxpayers, local ratepayers. You know, if we've got people going on projects that live here and drink our water, you know, it's, I'd rather get them to work. And it's cool that Ham gets a lot of our work and some of these local contractors. That, you know, when it's a little bitter, that mobilization is a big deal. When for some of our more expert work, you know, it seems like we go off the hill a lot for our expertise. So, okay, any more? So the GM.
All right, I got a few things today. First, a staffing update. The CFO posting closed on the 24th. We received 14 applications that all met the minimum qualifications, and we're interviewing 6 over a 2-day period on October 17th and 18th. The manager of plant operations, that closes today. So far, we've received 11 applications, and we're planning to hold interviews on the 30th of the month. And then the position that doesn't exist yet, the director of operations, a group of managers and myself met, and we began developing the job description for that. And I think we're really close at this point. And so next steps would be to comp it to see what the proper wage range would be for that, and then bring it to the board for discussion and approval. And I anticipate that happening either the first or second meeting in November. So we're moving ahead with that. I attended the El Dorado Water Agency meeting on September 13th, and a couple of important things came out of that. Number one, Rebecca Gu was officially appointed as the general manager, so we're excited to work with her. And then STPUD was allocated $50,000 of leftover ARPA money, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, to install some additional fire hydrants next summer. And as Dave said, the next meeting is October 11th, and it's here in the boardroom. So if any of you plan to attend, just please let Melanie know. Apache Avenue water line relocation. So we're having to relocate one of our water lines off of Apache out in Myers, and that's due to a county storm drainage project that's moving forward next summer. The county's contractor is completing the work, and we're paying them through a reimbursement agreement. This was, though, an unplanned and unbudgeted project, and it's costing us about $500,000. And due to this level of expense, I'm most likely going to be rolling this cost into another borrowing that I'm planning to start in the near future. And only saying that out loud today because typically, if you're borrowing tax-exempt revenue, you can't use it to fund expenses that have already occurred unless it's been talked about in the board meeting and in the minutes.
I don't see your
I know. Okay, thanks, Eddie. We had our kickoff meeting with Sean Korn, who's going to be conducting those studies this time. We're still in the process of gathering all the data necessary for him to start putting those together, but we'll probably have it due next week. And then the compensation study, we received 9 proposals from the RFP that we sent out. Liz and I went through them and whittled it down to 3, and then we're meeting with the compensation committee next week to choose the top candidates, so we can start moving forward with that.
Who's the compensation committee?
What?
Who's the compensation committee?
It's basically all the union shop stewards as well as the management representatives. And then labor contracts, we are still waiting for the union to notify us that they're ready to start. They're having some turnover that's affecting our members' representation. Last we heard, we should have something in November, and we have expressed our concerns to them that we don't want to wait much longer. We want to get this started sooner than later. And that's all I got today.
I have a quick question, Paul.
Sure.
Is there, I know, last board meeting, we were very close to kind of completion permitting for the solar project with CRPA. I was wondering if there's anyone that update on that?
Do you have anything on that, Trevor?
We've got our timber harvest plan completed, but no further movement beyond that. We have been doing a little bit of back and forth with Liberty. It sounds like we're making some progress with Liberty, but no major updates beyond that.
I'll have Julie give an update at the next board meeting then.
Trying to cut the street this year.
Following the rate study, during budgeting, we talked about, considering different rate zones, different.
Yeah, we had that conversation with Sean Korn, and so he's doing some, investigation into that, and at some point, yeah, he will basically recommend whether he thinks it's a good idea or not, whether it, whether having different rates throughout your system, because it makes it more complex, obviously, for both the customers as well as customer service. And if there truly is enough of a difference in the cost to provide that service to those customers, if it's worth changing the rates for them. So he's on board to look at it.
Very good. Anything else? Any other questions? Thanks, Paul. All right, item 12, past and future meetings are noted in the agenda, and if there's no other business, we are adjourned.